Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Lucas Bennett. In many ways, I'm an average 33-year-old guy, one of 4 partners in a successful plumbing business. When this story begins, I am married to Elena, a stunning 32-year-old often regarded as a trophy wife. She works as a secretary for the owner of the local BMW dealership, and together we have an 8-year-old daughter, Maria. We own a house in a nice part of town and a summer home on a popular island in the Baltic Sea. Elena and I first met when I was installing the town's new central heating system at her parents' house. She was still living at home and in a foul mood, having recently broken off her engagement with a guy nicknamed Bum Blasted. The reason? An enraged husband had caught him sleeping with his wife and shot him in the bare backside with a salt-loaded shotgun. Bum Blasted was a notorious womanizer, but this time he had gone too far. His real name was Ryan Grant. His mother had been an au pair in California and returned home 4 months pregnant. She named her son Ryan, believing it was the first name of her handsome American lover, though it was probably just an alias. Eventually, she reunited with an old classmate, Elias Grant, a man she had ignored in school but now saw as a convenient father for her child. Elias, once a shy and overlooked boy, eagerly embraced the opportunity to marry her despite the obvious baggage. He legally adopted Ryan, and to everyone's surprise, their family flourished. They had 2 daughters and built Elias's small computer shop into a chain of 12 large stores, which they later sold to a multinational company. With their newfound wealth, they bought a grand countryside estate where Elias, his wife, and their daughters took up horse breeding. Elias adored his stepson and spoiled him rotten, giving him everything he had been denied in his own youth. As a result, Ryan became a cocky, entitled brat, blessed with wealth and good looks. He was wildly successful with women until he met Eleanor. For the first time, he was genuinely in love, but to his frustration, Elena insisted on saving herself for marriage. Ryan, used to instant gratification, saw this as an obstacle, but he played along until his true nature betrayed him. After catching him cheating, Elena ended the engagement, plunging her into deep sadness. Wanting to cheer her up, I asked her out on a date. To my delight, she accepted. We had a wonderful evening that ended at my apartment, where she confessed that she had decided to change her lifestyle to experience the freedom her friends enjoyed. Perhaps as revenge against Ryan, she allowed herself to sleep with me that night. However, despite my best efforts, she refused any further dates afterward. Soon, rumors spread that Elena had embraced a wild party lifestyle, engaging in brief affairs, including, ironically, with some of Ryan's friends. Meanwhile, Ryan left town for university, continuing his womanizing ways but never quite getting over the fact that Elena, the one woman he had truly wanted, had denied him while engaged, yet slept with his friends. Later, his bruised ego could not accept it. A year after our brief encounter, I ran into Elena again at a party. We reconnected, and she assured me that her reckless phase was over. As we spent more time together, our relationship grew serious. We officially became a couple, and 3 years later, married when she became pregnant with Maria. A few months after our wedding, I was working on a plumbing job for one of Ryan's old friends. He smirked as he told me Bum Blasted swore he'd sleep with Elena one day and make sure the whole town knew about it. The guy claimed Ryan had never failed in seducing a married woman when he truly set his mind to it. That wasn't exactly comforting news for a newlywed. When I confronted Elena, she promised me she would never give Ryan the opportunity to be alone with her, let alone act on his so-called vow. Over time, the warning faded into the past. Years later, we heard Ryan had married a wealthy Englishwoman. and moved to England, seemingly out of our lives. Eleanor and I continued in what I would call an average marriage, full of its ups and downs. Then, like a bolt of lightning from a clear blue sky, it all came rushing back. It was a Wednesday evening, and Elena and I were sitting in our living room watching the weather forecast. The presenter was delivering good news for the upcoming weekend when Elena suddenly turned to me with a serious expression. "Lucas, I need you to listen. I have something important to tell you." I looked at her, a bit puzzled. "All right, go on. Something happened today?" "No, not today. In fact, it's something from the past, before you and I met." She hesitated. "Do you remember my ex-fiancé, Ryan Grant?" I frowned. "Oh, you mean bum-blasted?" "Yeah, I remember him. The guy who got shot in the arse for screwing someone's wife. There are still rumours about that guy. Last I heard, he was still a complete scumbag." "Why? Did someone finally shoot him again?" Elena had gone pale. "No, nothing like that. He lives in England now, but he recently attended an old friend's wedding. Here, that's where he met Gabriella Maria Eriksson. You know her, right? She and Ryan hit it off. And when he found out she knew me, he was curious and asked a lot of questions about me. She ended up giving him my number." A cold chill ran through me. I knew exactly what Ryan had promised to do. I kept my voice even. "Did he call you?" "Yes," she admitted. "We've talked a few times, reminiscing about old times." "Old times?" I scoffed. "You were together for what, 3, maybe 4 months? He cheated on you. Hardly worth reminiscing about." "You don't understand," she said, her voice pleading. "We had dreams back then. I just wanted to talk about them." "Dreams? That future was supposed to be behind you. What's the real problem?" Elena hesitated before saying, "He wants to see me." "Of course he does," I snapped. "He swore he'd sleep with you one day and prove it to the whole town." "Kind of hard to do that over the phone." She flinched at my words, her face ashen. "Don't be ridiculous. He just wants to catch up as friends, nothing else." "Fine," I said. "Invite him over. We can have him and his wife for dinner." Elena shook her head. "No, he's not coming here. He won a bonus week at a 5-star hotel in Ischia and invited me to go with him. His wife can't make it. She's afraid of flying, but she trusts him and has no objections to him meeting an old friend." I stared at her in disbelief. "You've lost your damn mind, that's for sure." "Please calm down and listen," she pleaded. "I've already accepted. I'm going there. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You and I could never afford a place like this." "Right now, not with the expenses for the summer house." My hands clenched into fists. This was worse than I had imagined, and I knew without a doubt that the real nightmare was only just beginning. She was right about one thing. Ischia was the most expensive of all Italian holiday resorts, a playground for the rich and famous, but that didn't change the reality of what she was doing. My anger boiled over as I shouted, "Do you still love that damn creep?" Elena's face paled. "No, of course not. I love you and you ought to know that." "You are my only love," I scoffed. "Is that what you call love? Running off to Ischia for a week of sex orgies with that horny bum-blasted creep?" No, of course not," she stammered. "Have I said a single word about sex? He hasn't demanded anything from me, and I haven't promised him anything. The truth is, I have no intention of cheating on you." I had enough of her. My voice rose. "No sex, no cheating. Then why the hell do you think he's taking you to one of the most luxurious resorts in the world? It doesn't matter if he conned some sucker into footing the bill. If you think he's not planning to screw you every chance he gets, you're either lying or incredibly naive, and don't be surprised when his evidence pops up all over the web." She gasped, taken aback. Do you really see me as a whore just because Ryan earned a bonus week in Ischia and invited me since his wife couldn't make it? I'd have been crazy to turn down such a great free vacation, I sneered. Did his wife tell you this? No. Then, yeah, I see you as a whore. And remember this, once a whore, always a whore. You can never wash that reputation away once you're back home. Tears welled up in her eyes as she sobbed. You'll see, nothing bad will happen in Ischia. Nobody will even know I'm going with Ryan. I laughed coldly. Nobody but me. You're out of your damn mind if you think I'll keep this a secret. Soon the whole town will see your orgies and my humiliation on the web. Now, for the first time, real fear flickered in her eyes. The price of her free trip was becoming much higher than she had expected. She whispered, "Please don't do this to us. I promise I'll make it up to you when I get back." "There's only one way to make it right," I said, my voice like steel. "Take out your phone, call that bum-blasted creep and cancel the trip. Do it now." Her lips trembled. I can't do that." And that was it, the final straw. My marriage was over. I felt a strange sense of relief as I muttered, "Then have a nice trip." I walked into the living room and poured myself a large glass of my best single malt whiskey. We didn't speak for the rest of the night. The next morning, she seemed to have regained her confidence. With a bright smile, she teased, "Do you still think you're married to a whore?" I looked at her coldly. "Have you cancelled your trip?" Her smile faltered. "No, and I can't." "Then yes, I still think I'm married to a whore." Her expression darkened. "Who cares about your opinion?" she snapped. We ate breakfast in silence. At work, I made a call. Clara Smith answered, sounding surprised. "Would you like to have lunch with me?" I asked. Clara lived just 4 houses down from us. She was the mother of my daughter's best friend and had dumped her cheating husband about 5 months ago. I had always admired her, not a trophy wife, like Elena, but attractive in her own right. Over lunch, after some small talk, I leaned in and said, "I have a secret to tell you, but you have to promise to keep it." Her eyebrows lifted. "A secret? And what's the catch?" "No catch," I said. "In fact, there's a gift involved. I want you and your daughter to come with me and Maria to Euro Disney in Paris, all expenses paid." Clara narrowed her eyes. "What's the condition?" "There isn't one. Not before the trip, not during, not after. I just think it would be easier for me and more fun for Maria to have you two along." She considered my words carefully. "And what does Elena think about this?" "Elena won't care. She's too busy planning her trip to Ischia with her ex-boyfriend," I said, my voice dripping with contempt. "And I've decided to file for divorce." Clara went silent. After a long pause, she asked, "Can you tell me more about your plans for the trip?" "No plans yet. If you say yes, we'll plan together." An hour after lunch, Clara called me back. "All right, I'll come." That evening, she had already arranged a babysitter for her daughter, and we met at my office to start planning. I expected her to insist on separate rooms, but to my surprise, she suggested a family room so the girls could stay together. I had no objections. From that day forward, Clara and I spoke daily. We booked our flights to Paris, rented a car, and secured a hotel near Euro Disney. Meanwhile, at home, Eleanor and I barely spoke. The only difference was that I had lost all interest in sex with her. If she noticed, she didn't seem to care. One day, while I was at a gas station washing her car, I found a folder she had forgotten in the glove compartment. It contained printed pages from the Ischia Hotel's website and an email from Ryan detailing their flight itinerary and boat transfer to Ischia. It was almost like she was teasing me on purpose. Instead, It was the final proof I needed. My course of action was clear now, and soon Elena would find out exactly what that meant. Elena had probably cancelled her trip if I had given her the ultimatum, stay at home or divorce. But I didn't see any reason to offer her that last chance to save our marriage and the damn summer house. In my mind, she had already betrayed me. The moment she said yes to Bum Blasted's invitation to a luxury getaway in Ischia. She wasn't naive, she knew exactly what he expected, and she had willingly agreed. Yes, I was going on a trip with Clara, and I had assured her there would be no conditions between us, but that was an entirely different situation. Clara was single, and I had already signed my divorce papers when we left. What happened after our trip would be a matter for the future, not a betrayal like Elena's. Elena had no objections when I told her that Maria and I would be going to Euro Disney in Paris while she was in Ischia. She didn't ask about any details. Maybe we had both lost interest in sex, though for different reasons. Until the last night before her departure, she was packing while I went to bed early. She tried to come near me, but I pushed her away. "Never come near me," I shouted. She flinched. "Oh my God, please talk to me." "We'll talk when we're back from our trips." She left early in the morning. Once I knew they were on the boat to Ischia, I made a call to Bum Blasted's wife. She was livid. "He's gone too far this time," she snapped. It hadn't been hard to find her. A quick call to Elena's friend Nancy had told me where in England Bum Blasted lived. People with unusual names are easy to track down. A simple online search gave me the Grant family's home phone number. Then I wrote my letter to Elena. "Dear Elena, your old and new boyfriend Bum Blasted is a terrible liar. His wife told me that she was working as their hostess while her husband enjoyed a week in Ischia. She said it had been a great pleasure having a vacation on the island. Maybe you should have spoken to her instead of believing everything that horny bastard told you. She has promised to come to Ischia as soon as possible for a serious talk with your lover, and you enclose please find copies of the divorce papers the court received today. From now on, you are free to do whatever you want without having to care about me. Of course, you didn't care much before either, otherwise you wouldn't be in Ischia reading this letter. Lucas, your soon-to-be ex-husband." I faxed the letter and the divorce papers to their hotel. It didn't take long for the calls to start. My home phone and cell phone rang repeatedly. Once Elena had checked in, I didn't answer, but I read her text messages. 1 hour after the first message, she sent another. "I'm coming back home tomorrow so we can clear up this misunderstanding," I replied. "You didn't share a hotel room with Bum Blasted by mistake. You went there on purpose. Now you'll have to live with the consequences. No reason to complain. Maria and I will be abroad for a few days. I don't care where you are." Later that evening, Abby Grant called. She was already in Naples and had demanded that Ryan immediately throw Elena out of their hotel room. 15 minutes later, Ryan called her back, assuring her that Elena had left the room. That meant she had checked out less than an hour after arriving. Abby doubted they had been in the mood for any romance after the chaos. Clara, the girls, and I left for our trip the next morning. We flew with Air France to Orly and picked up our rental car. Navigating to the hotel was easy thanks to an updated GPS. The girls were thrilled to have each other, and Clara and I got along effortlessly. The only hiccup was that our family room had 2 grand lit beds, slightly wider single beds. Clara and I looked at each other and burst out laughing. That problem solved itself. I barely thought about Eleanor, though she returned home the very next day. She sent countless text messages swearing that she hadn't cheated and had spent the night alone at another hotel. I replied, "You cheated the moment you accepted his invitation, and you left because he threw you out after his wife confronted him, not because of any moral revelation on your part. Clara never got involved in those exchanges. We spent 2 wonderful days at Euro Disney and another in Paris visiting the Eiffel Tower, shopping and taking a boat trip on the Seine. On our last night, after the girls had fallen asleep, Clara whispered, "Lucas, I love you." "I love you too, Clara." Our lovemaking was slow and silent, careful not to wake the girls. It was a deeply emotional night, marking a new beginning. Afterwards, Clara asked if I would still love her once we returned home. I promised her that real love wasn't dictated by location. The next morning, she made an offer. "You and Maria can move in with Will and me." I hesitated. "Are you serious?" She nodded. "If you meant what you said about loving me, my home is yours." I accepted. We both understood that it was a fast decision. We had only spent 4 days together, during which we had seen each other at our best, but we also knew that taking risks was necessary to win in life. Elena did not take it well when she realized what was happening. She cried hysterically as I moved my belongings to Clara's house, begging me to stay. But she had burned her bridges the moment she chose Ischia over our marriage. My first night in Clara's home was unforgettable. We spent hours making love. I couldn't understand how her ex-husband had ever cheated on such a wonderful woman. Nobody is perfect, but I was confident we could work through any problems together. That confidence was tested sooner than expected. A month into our new life, I received an anonymous letter at work. Inside was a printed photo showing Clara standing on a bar desk, her knickers around her ankles, holding up her short skirt. The message was that it was common knowledge among her friends that Clara had also slept with Ryan Grant, and I should know what she had been up to at a recent conference. At first, I felt the rage bubbling inside me, but something told me to look closer. After coming down, I examined the photo carefully. Even with the low-quality print, I noticed small inconsistencies. Her watch wasn't the one she had worn since we met, and her hair was slightly shorter than in real life. That evening, I handed Clara the letter and the picture. "Care to explain this?" I asked, watching her reaction closely. Clara responded that she had always suspected Ryan of either sleeping with her or, more likely, assaulting her when she was heavily intoxicated during a wild midsummer night party back in their school days. However, he had always denied any wrongdoing. When she saw the picture of herself dancing on a bar desk, she burst into laughter and handed me an album. She then showed me pictures from a funny game at a Christmas party held by her company. The pictures clearly displayed the date and time. Clara and several other women were lined up on the dance floor, all doing the same thing. It was part of a competition where they had to walk across the floor with their panties at their ankles, but they weren't wearing their own panties. Clara and I had agreed long ago that what we did before meeting each other was irrelevant. I had no reason to care about what she had done in her school days. Our real concern was discovering who had faked the pictures from that Christmas party. The level of skill used to alter the images with Photoshop was impressive, indicating that someone who hated Clara, me, or both of us had done it. We never identified the sender, but after Clara showed the picture to several co-workers and publicly offered a reward for discovering the culprit, the harassment stopped. A biker friend of mine had even promised to have a serious talk with whoever was responsible. From that moment, Clara and I only grew closer, knowing that some people envied our relationship. Elena and I decided to sell our summer house. She used her share of the money with additional financial help from her parents to buy out my stake in our home. We agreed to share custody of Maria, and despite the arrangement, she spent a lot of time with both of us. Even during Elena's weeks, Clara didn't mind, as our daughters had become as close as sisters. Abby and I kept in touch occasionally through emails. That's how I found out she and Bum Blasted had split up about 2 months after their vacation in Ischia. The reason? He had left his phone at her parents' house after a weekend visit. Her curious father went through it and found multiple explicit messages between him and another woman. That was the final straw for Abby. She had already forgiven him once after his attempts with Elena in Ischia, but this time she was done for good. Elena struggled during the first few weeks after our separation, but she eventually bounced back, now embracing life as a gorgeous single woman. She and Bum Blasted no longer had any desire to reminisce about their good old times, given the heavy price they both paid for their first failed attempt. Their friendship was beyond repair, as they blamed each other for everything that went wrong. Since then, Elena has dated several men. Her first relationship lasted only a month, as the guy was rather awkward, but her current boyfriend seems to be a much better match. Even Maria has noticed the difference and approves of her mother's new partner. The only issue is that he recently went through a tough divorce himself, and his ex-wife took him for everything he had before leaving him. Meanwhile, Clara and I are planning our wedding. Everything is going smoothly, both between us and between our daughters. In the early days of living together, we spent a lot of time discussing how we wanted our future to look. Naturally, we have our differences, but we believe that compromise and understanding will always lead to a solution. Our intimacy is at an all-time high, and we've decided to have a baby. We are actively trying, and even our daughters are excited about the possibility of a little baby brother or sister. Dear listeners, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.